What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics. And today we got a reaction to the Verve and their album Urban Hymns, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, and RTTC legend Iain. He's been here forever, brings such great stuff. Thank you, Iain. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below, the Patreon link on the end screen. We could not do it without the patrons like Iain. All right. I know this album. I've listened to this album one time. Trey and I did an album draft. It's been a few years ago now where we picked the top 10 albums of every year from 1965 through current times. This album appeared on my list. I've only listened to it, like I said, that one time. I don't really remember it. I know 2 songs on here very well, but we'll give a little background here on the Verve, because if you're in the UK, you know them well, and I get this, but if you're in the US, you probably don't. I didn't until this channel. I knew one song. So they were an English rock band formed in 1990 by lead vocalist Richard Ashcroft, guitarist Nick McCabe, bass guitarist Simon Jones, and drummer Peter Salisbury. Guitarist and keyboard player Simon Tong later became a member in their first reunion only. Beginning with the psychedelic shoegaze sound with their debut LP, A Storm in Heaven, by 1997 the band had released 3 EPs and 3 albums. They endured name and lineup changes, breakups, health problems, drug abuse, and various lawsuits. And look, I like all 3 of these albums, so I like their first 2 and this one. Soon after their commercial peak, the Verve disbanded in April 1999. This would be their second breakup, citing internal conflicts. According to Billboard magazine, quote, the group's rise was the culmination of a long, arduous journey that began at the dawn of the decade and went on to encompass a major breakup, multiple lawsuits, and an extensive diet of narcotics. During an 8-year split, Ashcroft dismissed talk of a reunion, saying, quote, you're more likely to see all 4 Beatles on stage. The band's original lineup reunited in June 2007, embarking on a tour later that year and releasing the album Fourth in August of 2008. Amid revived tensions, what a surprise, right? They broke up for the 3rd time in 2008. This is their 3rd album, released in September of 1997 on Hut Records. It earned nearly unanimous critical praise upon its release and went on to become the band's best-selling release and one of the best-selling albums of the year and of all time. We'll get to that in a minute. As of 2019, Urban Hymns, I guess we'll get to it right now, is ranked the 19th best-selling album in UK chart history and has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. This is the only Verve album to feature guitarist and keyboardist Simon Tong, who initially joined the band to replace their original guitarist Nick McCabe. McCabe rejoined the band, I hope I'm saying his name right, rejoined the band soon after, however, and Tong remained in the band, also considered as the 5th member. This makes the album the only one that the band recorded as a 5-piece. I'll get into that in a minute, the breakup. The album features the hit singles Bittersweet Symphony, Lucky Man, and the UK #1, The Drugs Won't Work. The critical and commercial success of the album saw the band win 2 Brit Awards in 1998, including Best British Album, and appear on the cover of Rolling Stone in April of 1998. That meant a lot back in the day, boys and girls. It was among the 10 albums nominated for the Best British Album of the previous 30 years by the Brit Awards in 2010, ultimately losing to What's the Story, Morning Glory by Oasis. We have a full review of that out. In 2013, NME ranked it at number 128 in their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. They'd previously released 2 albums, A Storm in Heaven in 1993 and A Northern Soul in 1995. They had only achieved moderate commercial success up to that point, and the band split shortly after their 2nd album due to internal conflict. So that's the first split. Vocalist Richard Ashcroft quickly reformed the band with Simon Tong, who I mentioned earlier, an old friend of the band, on guitar. However, Ashcroft realized that Nick's unique guitar style was required to complete the true Verve unit and later asked him to return. They did not get along. It's like that was the main split in the band, Nick and Richard. But when they were recording this, they figured out, and I'm not going to go into all of it. I know I got all this knowledge about the album that I've just researched. I'm not going to go into it, but they went through a couple different producers. They recorded part of the album, then scrapped it all, and then recorded another part and scrapped it again, and then almost scrapped the final version, right? So Tong also remained, adding more guitar and keyboard and organ textures. Now, Nick McCabe did say that most of the songs originated with Ashcroft singing and playing chords on an acoustic guitar, to which the rest of the band added other parts. He said, though, quote, it wasn't that much different from the process that went into the earlier records. We all developed ideas on the spot, and things happened additively. They weren't products of Richard's mind. We dressed the acoustic guitar and the voice, end quote. He said he was unhappy that Ashcroft received sole songwriting credit on many tracks because, quote, I know what my part was in making that record. A lot of those tracks bear his name because we had a manager who encouraged that line of thinking at the time. Because You don't know anything about, like, it's the publisher and the writer that gets the majority of the income from a hit song or a hit album. NME 8 out of 10, Pitchfork 8.6 out of 10. It spent 12 weeks at the top of the UK album charts with a total of 124 weeks on the chart. It also became the Verve's first charting album in the US at number 23. Iain's thoughts, the patron that brought this, he said, coming back after a breakup following a Northern Soul, they created one of the keynote albums of the decade and one of the top 20 selling albums of all time in the UK. Sadly, they only had moderate success in the US. It couldn't start better with, I'm about to get to this first tune, but before we do that, a couple things. First off, the music won't be in the video. We're going to have 3 different music videos we're going to watch too. So join me on the Vimeo link below. You can listen to it and you can watch the videos. If you know this album inside and out, want to just know what I think of it, just hang out right here because YouTube will just have all the music removed and it'll go rather quickly for you. Another little point I want to point out, I mean, if you've been in this channel a long time, you know this, but I didn't get to live through the Britpop era here in the United States. It was all grunge, and I kind of walked away from music there for a little while listening to it just because I just got tired of grunge. That's all there was. So having this channel over the last 5.5 years at the time I'm filming this, I've got to relive the Britpop era, you know, almost 30 years later and discover a lot of this stuff, well, really all of this stuff for the first time, right? Whether it's Oasis or Blur or Pulp or Suede or the Verve, like, so it's been awesome. So I don't know this album, right? I heard it one time, like I said, so I'm really looking forward to it because you might be sick of it if you're watching this in the UK, and I totally get that. But for me, it's basically all new, except for the first song. And you see it below, Bittersweet Symphony. It's got over 1 billion streams on Spotify. It's always amazing when a song that's older, that was not around when Spotify was there, gets to 1 billion streams. You know it's an iconic song. I had this song, even though it had a CD player for years, well, not years, probably 3-4 years at this point when this song came out. I had this song on cassette single. That's how much I like this song. It resonated with me from the second I heard it here in the US. But Iain says, amazing opener, smash hit, selling 2.4 million copies in the UK, making it to number 2 and received multiple awards. Very controversial given the legal dispute over authorship with the copyright holders of the Stones the last time. I'm going to get into that, but he says simple but fitting video works well. We're going to watch the video, and Iain rates every single song. He gives us a perfect 10 out of 10. Stuff I found. It was the lead single, went to 2 in the UK, as Iain said, stayed on the charts for 3 months, went to 12 in the US. They developed it from a sample of a 1965 version of the Rolling Stones song The Last Time by the Andrew Oldham Orchestra, adding vocals, strings, guitar, and percussion. They obtained rights to use a sample from the copyright holder, Decca Records, but were denied permission from the Rolling Stones' former manager, Alan Klein. Alan Klein was an evil SOB. Sorry, may he rest in peace. But everything I know of him, I didn't know him personally, obviously, but he just screwed artists right and left. Like, that's what he did. He stole so much stuff from the Stones. Had a great deal to do with the Beatles, and yeah. Anyway, following a lawsuit, the Verve relinquished all royalties, and the Rolling Stone members Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were added to the songwriting credits. In 2019, 10 years after Klein's death, Jagger, Richards, and Klein's son ceded rights to the Verve songwriter, Richard Ashcroft. Okay, I'm not going to give you this whole story. I read a ton of stuff on this because it's fascinating. A lot of people call it the worst music settlement ever. They give Richard Ashcroft $1,000. They've estimated by 2019 this song had generated $5 million for everybody he ceded those publishing rights to. So it's just a really bad deal. It was named Rolling Stone and NME Single of the Year and was nominated for Best British Single at the 1998 Brit Awards. In 1999, it was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Rock Song. Rolling Stone included it in 2 editions of its 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. All right, I'm going to the lyrics up as always, but for this song, we're going to watch the video. Thanks again, Iain. All right, Bittersweet Symphony. I don't think I've ever seen that video, or if I did, it was just in passing, and I don't remember it. It's a simple video, as Iain said, yet it's not. Like, to film this thing would have been quite complex, actually, right? Single camera, for the most part, walking down the street, and, you know, he's puffed up and he bumps into everybody, and you've got to coordinate all of that. At the very end, all the members come out, and you see them walking and then walking away. But the song is absolutely brilliant. It just is, man. It just is. It's a 10 out of 10, and I don't give 10s very often. I just don't. It's brilliant. I mean, the second you hear it, the way it all works together. And it's just a shame that that Alan Klein was the catalyst to stealing all the royalties for this thing. It gets complicated, admit it. Like, Alan gave them permission to use just a little bit, but he said they used too much, so went back and sued him. But I don't think you can start on an album much better, right? Next up, we have Sonnet. Iain says, another very striking and simple video that works well. The final single from the album wasn't officially able to chart in the UK due to packaging format. 2 songs in, and both are fantastic. Gives it a 9 out of 10. All these things, man, every country has these weird rules on charting. We have it there in the US too. You know, if something wasn't officially released as a single, it's stupid, man. So I don't know the song, but we're going to watch the video to this one as well. All right, Sonnet. I knew that song the second I heard it. So I don't know if I just remember it from the album. It's probably been brought on a live stream at some point in the history of this channel. That song is an absolute banger, man. That song is great. If Bittersweet Symphony wasn't on such a level, like, it's right below it. It's fantastic, man. The video also works well, as Iain said. It's another simple video. It's just Richard. Now this time he's in the futuristic looking chair, and then they changed the backgrounds behind him. When it was a lot harder to do that, AI didn't exist. Obviously, technology was different. And at the very end, the rest of the members are sitting there, just like in the very end of Bittersweet Symphony. They come out and walk with him. So I thought that was interesting. That song, I really don't think you can start an album out much better than those first 2, not just first 1. Next up, we have The Rolling People. Iain says, loud, rolling guitar, heavy song. There's a lot of wailing and vocalization. A good song that is surrounded by classics, so it doesn't shine. Still a 7.5 out of 10 for Iain. And this one is 7 minutes long. This is how we did it back then. All right, The Rolling People. Not a bad tune. It didn't seem like it was 7 minutes long, so that was good. It just pales in comparison to the first 2. So I think Ian's right. It's very hard to objectively look at this thing unless you just went in hot and listened to this song and nothing else on the album first, because now we're going to do another absolute banger. And the other song I know on this album really well, The Drugs Don't Work. Iain says, my personal favorite Verve song and a global hit. Very moving song that seems to be about drug abuse, but also could be about how cancer treatment failed for his father. Either way, it's an amazing and beautiful song. Another perfect 10 out of 10. And you know what? I mean, I'll give you my opinion once I listen to it in this format with the headphones on and totally focused, but I don't think Ian's wrong on that. Second single debuted at number 1, ranked number 7 on Channel 4's list of the 100 greatest number 1 singles. The somber nature of the song unintentionally captured the spirit of the nation, as it was released the day after Princess Diana had died. In October 2011, NME placed it at number 78 on its list of 150 best tracks of the past 15 years. Lead singer Richard Ashcroft wrote the song in early 1995. He briefly mentioned it in an interview at the time relating to his drug usage. He said, there's a new track I've just written. It goes, the drugs don't work. They just make me worse. And I know I'll see your face again. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. They make me worse, man. But I still take them out of boredom and frustration. You turn to something else to escape. And they had, performed this song 2 years before on tour. All right, we're going to watch the vid for this one as well. All right, The Drugs Don't Work. I mean, 3 out of the first 4 songs are just absolutely outstanding. Great song. Video was fine. It's kind of cool in the video, right? It started out with the ending of Bittersweet Symphony. And since we just watched that a few songs back, that was kind of cool to see. But I've seen a live performance of this that was incredible as well. But, Richard has a very good voice. And not everybody in Britpop did. It's just the whole vibe of all of it. So, I think I do need to point that out. But incredibly well done. Next up, we got Catching the Butterfly. Iain says, a relaxing, if long, chill-out song. Not grabbing, but enjoyable for the right mood. 7 out of 10. I actually did a reaction to this song live, a live performance of it in a song battle Trey and I did. So I do know it, but I don't remember it. All right, Catching the Butterfly. Good guitar work on here. Nice vibe. Felt a little long, but a lot of songs of this era do, but I still liked it. Go to Neon Wilderness. Iain says, a distinctive Nick McCabe guitar, giving the Verve signature relaxed guitar sound, even more relaxed than Catching the Butterfly. Only a 6 out of 10 for Iain. All right, Neon Wilderness, the rare short song on this album, or of this era, right, for about any Britpop artist. It's fine. It seems like an unfinished song to me almost. It's like some sort of vibe that you would warm up to or have in a jam session. I liked it. It was fine. Next up, we have Space and Time. Iain says, decent song with stirring chorus. I just can't it alone. Has that Verve feel to it like any great band. You can tell it's one of theirs instantly. 8 out of 10. All right, Space and Time. So I can't make it alone. That's what Iain was saying in the quote, right? I said I can't it alone because make it was missing from when I copied it over from what he said. But It really sticks in your head. I think it's a song about two people who don't want to be alone. I think they're just physically attracted to each other. It doesn't seem like there's any love there, but I think all of us at one point in our life may have been in a relationship like that or close to it, most of us. Next up, we have Weeping Willow. Iain says, this song grows on me. Backing vocals I find a bit off-putting, but a solid track, 7 out of 10. All right, Weeping Willow. Pretty good song. I do see what Iain's saying about the backing vocals. I don't know if I would have noticed it, but when he pointed it out, it really came in there towards the end, and it was bugging me. But the outro, Weeping Willow, the pills under my pillow, and then Weeping Willow, the gun under your pillow. So both of them at the end contemplating taking their lives. But I did like the vibe of this one. I thought it was good. Next up, we have Lucky Man. Iain says, simple video for the third single released from the album, going to number 7, was a well-received ballad and anchors the second side of the album. Another sky-high 9 out of 10. See, I told you at the start there were 3 videos. I lied to you. There was 4. In an interview on BBC Radio 2, Richard said the song was, quote, inspired by my relationship with my wife and that sense of when you're beyond the sort of peacock dance that you have early on in a relationship, right, when everything's great, and you're getting down to the raw nature of yourself, end quote. U2's Bono listed the song as one of 6 songs released between 1986 and 2006 that he wished he'd written. All right, let's check out the vid. All right, Lucky Man. I have seen that video one time. We used to do our live streams on Twitch. We do them on YouTube now, but used to do them on Twitch, and somebody brought this video because I remember the space. The space, I think, looks really cool. Like that apartment or whatever it is looks fantastic. Really well done. Very similar to the Sonnet video where everyone's just sitting around. About 2/3 of the way through, the drummer comes down the stairs and at least gets to play the tambourine, but it's basically Richard's. Very simple, but it's effective, but fantastic song. Next up, we have One Day. Iain says, enjoyable, laid-back verses. Quite a beautiful song, 7 out of 10. One day, one day he hopes that she's going to find love again and be able to love again. This song grew on me the longer it went on. That's the way that a lot of these songs are. The atmosphere of this album in particular grows on you on some of these songs that I don't know, which is most of these songs that I don't know, but I thought that was a good track. Next up, we have This Time. Iain says, they upped the tempo for this percussion-dominated song. The second side of the album needed something, and this variation helps keep you interested. Not a classic, but another grower, 7 out of 10. All right, This Time. Iain was exactly right. The percussion on here, we needed a change up a little bit because the second side has been very similar. Not in a bad way, but compared to the first side where there was definitely, between Bittersweet Symphony and The Drugs Don't Work, there's a lot of musical difference there. On the second side, it's kind of all the same. Not in a bad way, but a nice little change up. Next up, we have Velvet Morning. Iain says, not the most coherent song. Nice rolling beat and jamming guitars with some singing and some shouting and incoherent wailing. Not one I'd listen to if I wasn't listening to the album. Maybe a skip for me. Not terrible, though. 6.5 out of 10. All right, Velvet Morning. I actually didn't mind that song much. There's some sort of vocal effect on Richard's vocals, but here's the thing. Most of the time, as you hear a song, familiarity makes you like the song more. It's also possible it goes in the opposite direction. Like, man, that song's kind of annoying me, especially towards the end of a long album. So I can totally get Iain's perspective on that one. Well, you see it below. We're to the last song, sort of last song. Come On, which includes the hidden song, Deep Freeze. Iain says, thankfully, the song isn't a quarter of an hour long. If you see, it's showing 15 minutes. Not a bad closing track with a nice rolling beat. Liam Gallagher adds some backing vocals. A simple song with loud guitars works well. After 6 minutes, the track peters out to silence before an actually good hidden track? ? Sadly not. Usual for this CD-dominated period as a hidden track. As usual, it's more of a song fragment. I could have done without it, but then it wouldn't be the 90s without it, so I can forgive them. That's exactly right. Gives this one a 7.5 out of 10, ignoring the hidden part in parentheses. And I found Ashcroft told BBC Six Music, there's a lot of jokes within the album. Liam Gallagher's on the last track, Come On. I don't think anyone knows this, but if you concentrate, you can hear some demented guy screaming, Come On. I imagine everyone thinks that's me, but I remember him doing it. He arrived at the studio with the tape of a song he'd just done with Stone Roses guitarist John Squire. He proceeded, as he does, to play it 15 times in a row in the studio. I played him Bittersweet Symphony. Then I said, we're doing Come On now. You got to be on it. He went into this booth with someone else, and he was going ballistic at the end of it, smashing the tambourine against the side of the vocal, screaming. So on here, I'll just go from this track to the hidden track. All right, let's finish this thing off. All right, Come On with Deep Freeze. It's most of these like hidden tracks, right? It's about 2 minutes and 10 seconds long. There's no vocals. Maybe the soundscape could have been developed into something. But I think probably a few of the artists, we got to have the hidden track, but you don't want to make it very good because a lot of people will never get to it, right? So you kind of don't want to waste it. So you kind of got to throw something like this on there. It's just a novelty that I don't know why it just became a thing in the 90s. I don't know who started it, but then it was just kind of like, you got to do it. Got to fill up that whole CD. Getting out to Come On, Mr. Gallagher there towards the end going crazy. It was fine. I mean, it was a good song. I didn't think it was, at the level of some of the other songs on here, but I mean, I didn't dislike it. That's going to bring me to my favorite tracks, which just seems like I'm just going with the most popular ones, but it's kind of the way it is. Honorable mention is Space and Time. And then faves, I know this is going to be a shocker, right? This is great musical analysis right here, boys and girls. Bittersweet Symphony, Sonnet, The Drugs Don't Work, and Lucky Man. I know those are the 4 singles. It's not always the case that they're the best songs. I don't even really know Lucky Man and Sonnet. I've heard them twice, but they are the best songs. And I think part of it is I've heard Bittersweet Symphony so much, and I've heard The Drugs Don't Work a lot because when I listened to this album a few years ago for the album draft, I put that on my faves playlist and spun the hell out of it because I really, really liked it. So I'm very familiar with it. So for me, I think Sonnet might be my favorite song on here. I know it's not the best song. I get that. I think it may be my favorite song. Before I give it a grade, let's see what Iain has to say. He says the first 5 tracks of this album are world-class, classic album territory. The second side doesn't maintain the quality, but still very good, with Lucky Man being the outstanding track for Iain. So neither one of us chose the 2 that are most popular. This album is full of nostalgia for me, coming out when I was at uni, and was being a step up from their 2 previous albums, which are worth listening to, especially a Northern Soul, but are not as accessible. And I liked both of those albums on memory. Overall, this gets an 8.25 from me, mostly for the opening side. So now we'll get to my overall grade. Before we do, I got to shout out Simon Jones on the bass. He got a few songs on here, and I forgot to mention it. I was mainly at the start of a couple songs where he got to shine. Peter Salisbury is on drums. He did a good job. In the Britpop genre, the drums aren't as important as a lot of other things. So they got to be there, right? But they just kind of fade over here because a lot of it is the guitar work. So Nick McCabe and Simon Tong doing a fantastic job. And I know Ashcroft is on keyboards and rhythm guitar as well as lead vocals. I think Richard's a fantastic vocalist. I think he's a step above from what a lot of Britpop vocalists were, right? Because like I told you partway through this, it's more about the whole vibe of the music, which is fantastic. I love Britpop music. If you are watching the UK, you may be sick of it like I'm sick of grunge that we had here in the 90s, which I get. But for me, I really, really enjoy it. Not all the vocalists are fantastic. It doesn't matter. It's not something you notice, like, oh man, that vocalist's not very good. But Ashcroft is a very good vocalist. This album's interesting. It's too long, but they all were. Like all of them in the Britpop realm that were very popular. They're all too long. Could have shaved 2 songs off this, maybe 3. Probably shave 3 songs off this and, leave off the hidden tracks. I mean, there's really, quote, 14 songs on here. And you would really be in the money. But something that has these 4 bangers on here that are just unbelievable. For me, I'm not trying to go right down the line with Iain, but it just happens to be the way this time. It's an 8.25. It really can't be any lower. Like, that's got to be the floor with those 4 absolutely incredible songs. I think there's some other good songs on here and some other songs that are just, fair. They're average. No song on here is bad. No song on here is bad. So a really good listen. And one that should have been up on the channel probably a long time ago. So thank you to Iain for remedying that. Let me know your favorite tracks down below and which of their 4 albums, because remember there was another one, 4th, that came out years later, do you like the most? And there's a Britpop playlist that I have that has a lot of different, we got Pulp, we got Oasis all over it. We got Blur. There's a lot of stuff in there, and this will be in there now as well. But go check that one out. And until next time, guys, I will see you.